Welcome to the One More Boom podcast, where we are a different breed. This is more than just a space for oil field and pipeline professionals. It's a community built for those who refuse to settle for the ordinary. You're here because you're ambitious, resilient, and driven to excel. At One More Boom, we're both more than just work. We're both thriving under pressure, breaking new ground, and pushing limits. This is your place to connect, learn, and grow with others who live for the challenge. You're not average, you're a different breed. Welcome to the One More Boom community. One More Boom podcast, baby. Welcome back, Nick. Good to see you again, man.
Man, it's been a while. It's good.
Yeah, it's super good, man. I'm super excited about this episode because we get to dig into Nick Gemmell.
Oh my goodness.
Are you ready, Nick?
As ready as I'll ever be.
I guess we should have talked about this offline a little bit. Is there any topics that you see that are kind of off the table?
No, I'm pretty much an open book.
I love it, man. I love it. So, we kind of talked about how we met, all that sort of thing. So, I want to get to know the man a little bit. So I might have a few questions. I know we've known each other for a few years, but there's always those hidden little spots that guy doesn't get to. So then I'd love to hear where you started, how you started, even your age. What led you to becoming a welder in the very beginning, how you progressed from being a welder to an inspector to what you do now, man, which is a lot of cool shit.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. To go back to the beginning, so 45 years old, so born in 79. I started welding in 1998, and how that came to be was I was playing slow pitch. My baseball career was over, so I was playing slow pitch, and I was on the team, and I needed beer money. So I was complaining because I was playing I was only 19 years old or so, and I was complaining to the guys that I needed another job and I needed more beer money. And a guy on our team said, "Hey, our boiler shop, we're hiring. I'm sure we are, and let me see what we can find out." And I actually got started in sheet metal. Started the apprenticeship there, and within 2 months they fired my boss. Yeah,
your boss.
Yeah, it was about 2 months. Yeah, it was a long time ago, but yeah, it was about 3 months. They fired my boss on the sheet metal division. It was very small. It was him and I. That was the division, right? so that was something else. That was something else. And then my boss one of the owners came to me and said, "Hey, we like your work ethic. We want you around, and you can choose between plumbing or welding. Those are the other two things." And we were already doing a little bit of welding that they were teaching me through the sheet metal process. And so I'm like, well, A, I don't want to play with shit. And two, let's see what this welding thing is more about. And that's literally how it got started. Nick needed more beer money.
I love it, man. What a great beginning to a really cool story.
Yeah.
So you started sheet metal. The Canada boss. So what happened to the sheet metal side? Did they actually just get rid of that sheet metal side?
Yeah, they just got rid of it. It wasn't profitable the way they were doing it, and we were making a lot of the fittings that we needed to make. There was a lot of inefficiencies, even looking back now that I didn't know, and. But there was a lot of inefficiencies with that, and it's always in the person that's running it too. So I don't know if it was really the right guy doing that. He was a very, very nice guy, let's put it that way. But nice guy in business isn't always the right guy, right? So,
all right. So we went to sheet metal. You went over to welding. Did that lead you to starting your first rig, or did you jump from that job back into pipeline, or how did that kind of transition go?
Yeah, so being in a small boiler shop, so we worked on out in the field, not too much, but fixing boilers that were leaky boiler tubes or other things, or installing new boilers that we built. We'd go and run the glycol and water lines or steam lines, whichever one it was, and then we went. I went a few years, so then jump forward to I got my B ticket in 2001, and from there, you get exposed on some jobs to guys that are running their own trucks through that, hiring subcontractors and that sort of thing, and then you're like, well, that's pretty cool, but I didn't know. I didn't know nothing about running your own thing or doing that. And honestly, I didn't really think about it until we found out that we were going to have a baby. So, yeah, I got married in 2003. Whew, I should know this, but there's lots of reasons. Yeah, 2002. Sorry, it was 2003. I don't know why I went on that. So
we won't tell her if you know.
Yeah, exactly. She'll never listen to this anyways, but it's okay. So we were going to have a baby. So 2004, found out, and then I was like, man, we need to make some more money. We need to, like, that's where my brain was. I was like, man, if I'm going to have a family, I want them to be protected. I want them to have lots of money. So then I literally didn't even tell my wife, and I quit my job, bought a truck. Yeah, well, I told her the day that I quit my job, but I already had a truck in mind that I was going to buy. It was a used truck, and then I had all the equipment that the ex-brother-in-law was going to help me. Well, brother-in-law at the time, but he was going to help me procure and get all that stuff going, because he was a rig welder as well. So that's kind of where it came from, I guess, is I seen him doing it, and directly in front of me, and doing very well at it. So when I had that opportunity, and there's a truck, there's some equipment, man, let's go. So I just quit. I just quit.
I love the psychology behind decision making, right? Like, it's always interests me. For me, I mean, you'll never ever know why you made that decision. You'll know why you made that decision, but tell me a little bit about your childhood. Like, and the reason I ask this is because decisions when we get surprised or not surprised, depending if you're planning or whatever, of having a kid, it's like, for me, I think some of the psychological reasons that you kind of, for you, and I don't know this, you're like, I need more money.
Yeah.
Did you grow up? Tell me a little bit about your childhood.
Yeah, so mom was a banker, and then dad worked for the city. So worked for a union all his life, working for the city. So not entrepreneurial, nothing like that. And yeah, they thought I was crazy.
I love it.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. So never being around that, and not being, and it is funny, like, getting into welding, because my family, there is some people who are, I guess, adept to the working with their hands and doing that, but I was never exposed to like mechanical work. I was never exposed to like working on engines, that sort of thing, or just really building stuff. Like, that's not really our family. Like, they do a lot of other things, but that was never the thing. And so to get into something trades related was very outside the box.
For your family.
Yeah. And then to move forward into going on my own, that was the next level. And now, with all the stuff that I have going on, nobody understands what's going through my brain. Yeah.
So tell me about how you felt when you started the truck. You excited, scared?
Super excited. And I didn't even have a contract or anything. And then I phoned a buddy. He was working for StarTech Refrigeration here in Calgary, so they do a lot of the refrigeration work for the coolers and ice rinks and that sort of thing. And he was running jobs for them. So I phoned his boss and literally went behind his back, I guess, because he already had a welder for the job they were doing at COP at the Olympic Park. He already had a welder from Calgary lined up to do it all, and then his boss brought me in, and I show up on site, and he's like, "What are you doing?" So it was pretty wild, yeah. Like, it's something that I've learned is I'll find who I need to talk to and which way I need to go. Pretty resilient that way.
Got the resources to
resourceful. That's the word. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so started working in Calgary.
Yeah.
How long did you run the truck here in Calgary?
Yeah, that project was only for this one summer, really.
Wow.
Yeah. And then it was okay. And then I worked Southern Alberta with that same group. We worked on the McCain's plant down in Tabor. That's when they were first building that, and working more commercial jobs. And then at some point, then I was like, yeah, this isn't really much better, more money than I had, because you're always waiting for money when you're working for that. So it's either 30, 60, 90 days in some cases. One contractor I was working for was 120 days. The reason I did this was to get ahead, and this wasn't really working. So that's when I started putting my feelers out into the oil field, and then started working at some shops in Brooks and elsewhere, doing fabrication. So that's a whole different game when you're used to one shop and you know how they do things, and then all of a sudden you're working with all these other rig welders who are getting paid a lot of good money to go do the things, and now you're expected to just show up and produce. Like, that's what they're hiring you to do. And I was one of the only guys that was out of town at that shop anyways. So it's really that dynamic when you're coming in and you're the new kid on the block for one. You're one of the only guys that are getting sub for another one, so they're paying you living out. And yeah, you got to prove yourself.
Got a bit real fast, right?
Yeah, real
paying big
fast.
Bucks to be there.
Real fast. And then I took that same mentality out to other jobs, where we just didn't know I had ADHD. That was never a thing kind of back in the day, but just so focused. So when I'd show up on a job, it was, okay, what do we need to do and how efficient can we get it done? I rub some people the wrong way, because you kind of get your hands into some things that you kind of maybe shouldn't at some point, right? And here and there. But to the point of getting paid living out allowance, there was lots of jobs where I would be the only guy that's from out of town, and I didn't care. I was just that guy that, you show up, get your job done, and you go. But I was pretty good at what I did. Yeah.
And you mentioned before that you're a bit of a lone wolf. Do you think that kind of had something to do with it?
Oh, yeah. So, but the foreman that I would kind of roll with from that one company, they knew that about me, and they knew what I needed to do, or what I was able to do for them. So they just brought me in, and they just let me go, and they didn't have to babysit.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool, man. And then, so then transition, was that pipeline?
That was more facility work. So we were building some compressor stations and expanding on some plant work and stuff like that was already there, and building new compressors, line heaters, installing those. And then from there, so I on the welding side, I was on some pipelines, and full disclosure, I was never that great of a pipeline welder. I know my strengths, but it's something that you need to do. And again, going back to the mentors, I didn't actually seek out those people to like, hey, train me how to do this. Like either on days off or after hours, I would just try to figure shit out on my own. And I was never that great of a pipeline welder. So like on mainline, you have to go. Like there's no messing around. There's no sitting there and trying to fix a mess that you made or whatever, or leave a mess for everybody. You get exposed very quickly on that side. And then from there, it started. I wanted to branch out. So 2013, it was 2012. I just started putting my resume out for inspection jobs. Wanted to go inspecting for whatever reason. It's for me, it seemed to be the next progression.
And is that kind of the next? I don't know much about that side of things. So is that kind of the next progression after you kind of let's call it master what you're doing? Maybe it becomes monotonous. Maybe whatever. You just need to feed that brain, right? So is that the next progression from welding to inspection?
Well, for a lot of guys, it's getting into more foreman or supervisory roles, and welding, either welding or pipe fitting, those are the roles that tend to move up. That's kind of how that rolls on this side. And the inspection side is just a different route to take for supervising, I guess, in a different way, where you're not managing the crews, but you're just managing the quality of work that's going down. And so for me, I gravitated to that side I still don't know why I gravitated that side, because it's such a liability for one.
Yeah, I bet.
But it's different than the liability of the guys that are running crews. Yeah, the guys that are actually running crews, props off. I've done it a few times now, and you're dealing with their home life. You're dealing with them, missing work and doing all of that. It's a whole nother level of managing people. Whereas if you're on the inspection side, you don't care if they show up or not. You just need somebody to show up. It doesn't matter who. So if they're sick or whatever, as long as someone's doing that job that person was supposed to do, you don't really care per se, as long as they're competent and they're able to do that work.
Right. I'd like to get back a little bit. You were saying like you didn't seek out a mentor.
Yeah.
Tell us why. Like, and from my experience, or from oilfield experience in the last 20-odd years, is you don't really seek out mentors. You figure it out yourself. Scared to ask questions because you don't want someone to replace you.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit of ego. And do you think that has a lot
I
to do?
think 100%. The ego grows as you move up the chain, and then and asking questions. That was my thoughts. Was if I asked a lot of questions, you'd be exposed. You'd be exposed to but it works the opposite if you ask the questions in the right way. If you're asking questions because either you want validation that your decisions were right, or because you truly don't know something, now I want people to ask me those questions.
Absolutely.
If they don't know, because that's where people get hurt, and two, that's when mistakes happen, and you can't have that. So, but it also gives a chance for those people to grow. I don't like people coming to me with problems. I like solution-based questions where, hey, this is what's going on. I see this, or this being the solution to this. What do you think is best? That's where I like that communication to go now.
Right.
I didn't know that before. So if I could articulate that to the people that was working, but the people that are above you or in the senior positions above you, if they have that kind of culture where they're promoting that, then maybe I would have asked more questions.
Yeah, who knows? I guess we'll never know.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to create a culture like that now.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think we're kind of in a position that we can do that.
Yeah.
With what you got going on, with what I got going on, and have that kind of, it basically boils down to culture.
Yeah.
Ask questions, here to help, here to teach, here to mentor, here to whatever.
Mm-hmm. And if you're coming with those questions, like the question, but also the solution based, you're figuring it out. And Dan Martell talks about that too, where he's like that's what I want my people. That's why I hired you. Was even if you didn't know, you have Google, you have other resources. Shit, nowadays you have AI that you can go and ask. It doesn't matter if it's a technical question or not. It actually prefers those rather than just some random question on the earth. But it's but there's so many resources out there that you can come with a solution, but having that validation with somebody that's senior of, hey, I think it should, this is how I would attack it, but is this right? Or is there some other way I should look at it? But at least it gives you the time or it shows that you took the time to do your job, which was what you're getting paid for, even if you had to research what it was. Because there's so much, in the regulations and the specs and the codes, and it changes all the time. How is anyone supposed to know? That's why there's a search bar and all of these things, right?
Yeah, I was pretty lucky. I had a really good boss in Calgary when I worked for Synovus, and I would same thing. I'm a solution. I like coming with a solution type question. I would basically go to him like, hey, I have this. This is what I'm thinking about doing. Is that cool? Chris would always be like, yep, you got this.
Yeah.
And I think that he really appreciated that as well, knowing that I took the time to, take the problem, think about it, work it, come up with a solution, and present it versus like, tell me what to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I think it's important to get a mentor.
Yeah.
And create that culture, especially at work. It's pretty important.
And I think because I bounced around so much, it didn't really give me a time to spend that much time with somebody to be able to take me under their wing, if that's what you want to call it, or even bounce ideas off. Because everyone's so, I guess it comes back to perception too, because I always thought people were so busy. So even if I would connect with someone, like there was a superintendent that I worked for forever when I was still welding before I went inspecting. And he kept growing, and now he's a construction supervisor for a company out of Calgary here. But I know I could have just phoned him. Like when I was inspecting, there's no reason why I couldn't just phone that guy, because we had such a good rapport. But I just think everyone's so busy, and I don't want to bug somebody. A lot of those people, they like that. They like somebody coming to them because we all have an ego, but two, there is certain people that just like to give out information. They want to see things get better.
They want to see you excel.
Yeah,
absolutely.
No, but they want the industry to be safe too.
That's another one.
Right? When we make mistakes, and they do happen, it affects everybody on the industry. It's everything from the hoodies now in Alberta and BC. Like, I don't know if it's on the rigs, but a lot of these companies, you can't wear hoodies. Well, it happened because there was somebody that got ran over, and the dozer operator was, in the one instance, was wearing a hoodie, and that's why that got taken away. Because of this one thing. It's very unfortunate what happened, but those are the things. So we don't want those. Anytime an incident happens, it affects the entire industry, is what I'm trying to go with that. Yeah. And so we want to learn from those and not have those. And if by you asking that specific question that you don't, it can save a lot of, paperwork, downtime, someone getting hurt, an asset getting hurt, and it just makes everything better.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so let's skip forward a little bit. Not that I'd love to keep talking about that stuff, because I think that's super important. So we'll skip forward. You go to inspecting. You do that for...
Yeah, till about 2 years ago. So is when it started to phase out and start other things. And so 2018. So started inspecting 2012. Went 2018. I went and that's when I totally blanked out there, because I think I wanted to forget it. But that's when my wife left me, is May of 2018. So and from there, it was a battle. It was a battle at that point. And I think I alluded on the last episode where I went to Thailand to rehab, of all places. Why Thailand? What is that all about, right? People go to Thailand to get away from everything. There's a lot of bad things you can do there. But when she left, it was the next year where I didn't deal with my stuff, and I just kept moving on. I went inspecting. I was still doing the things. Made a lot of mistakes. My head was not there. I wasn't in the game. It was on her and the kids being gone, because, I was always on the road, so it only makes sense for her to have the kids, whether I fought it or not, which I didn't, for that reason. So she had the kids, and I would see them every so often, and that messes with you, right? And so, when I started seeing a therapist, and I was trying to get her to come for a couples therapy, actually. And she was in BC. I was here. Like, she's 3.5 hours away, or 5 hours from Lethbridge, actually. So, and it was the second time I was in that therapy session with that couples counselor, and she said, "I don't think she's coming, dude." Like, oh, okay, I think you're right. And let's talk more about you. that's a loaded, we don't do that, no. But I did. I opened up to her, and then through a couple sessions with her, it was, I decided that I was an addict. I was like, yeah, I just dive into everything and just go head first, and it's all or nothing. And that's the way I've always lived my life. So it was through those conversations, I was like, man, I think I'm an addict. Well, and then she says to me, well, maybe. I don't know. We've only chatted a few times, her and I, right? She's like, well, maybe. Everybody is, just so you know. It's just to what level that you are an addict. It's just embedded in the human DNA. And through that, I said, well, I think I'm going to go away to rehab. And I think I'm going to do this a thing. So she's like, well, I support you, but I don't think you want to go in Canada. They're very clinical here. You don't need that. I don't think, she says. And so she suggested going to Thailand. She sent a couple people to this place there called Hope Rehab in Thailand, and it's very holistic in meditation, mindfulness, which I didn't even know what those things were, what they actually meant or whatever, and cognitive behavioral therapy. And I'm like, I don't know, if I can get on a plane, that's all I was looking for. I didn't really care where it was going at that point. Just get me on a plane. So I booked a ticket, got there, and I spent 2 months in Thailand. And it was the best thing I've ever done, honestly.
Man, I can imagine. I mean, we've talked at length about it, but do you want to dive into it a little bit?
Yeah. Like, I was there there was everyone from a 16-year-old girl from Brisbane to a professional poker player that was there. Like, it was just, and then some old divorced wives that from Europe. There was a lot from Europe actually there that were alcoholics. So just seeing that mix of everyone came from a different aspect of life, but they all ended up in the same place for whatever reason. And it's just very interesting to me. And that's where I've never really been open to psychology and all the other things, but just that alone and being exposed to it, it really opened my eyes to the brain does some very particular things.
There's one thing that you've talked about before is, like, you know, when you have that thought, and we'll just talk about the brain for just a quick sec, because I really like this one. You have that thought, and then it's like you need to provide evidence to yourself that this is true. Yeah. And I think that's super powerful, man, because you can have some crazy ass thoughts, right? But if you could provide the actual evidence that it's true, that's where the real power is. Yeah. Oh,
it's huge, and that's the study of CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy. That's a lot of it. What are the facts? What are the feelings behind those facts? And what are the actions that you're doing based on those feelings? And is it true? And when you can circle that, and when the quicker you can make that feedback loop happen in your brain, it doesn't happen overnight. You have to study that lots. I'm actually a practitioner in that CBT now. I could teach people about it. It's crazy, but the quicker that you can do that and not have to write that down, like those steps down, and literally do it in your head, it changes your decision making. And the quicker that you can make those decisions, and hopefully not in a negative way, it accelerates your life. It truly does. It truly does. So studying that there for 2 months, and again, I was not in a good place. So it took a lot of time to absorb that. That process didn't happen in those 2 months. That was so much me just, what the hell am I doing? How did I end up here? And how do we not do this again? That's another thing. But then how do I take all this information now? Because you're getting fed through a fire hose. And it's just like, I actually have emotions other than hungry and horny. This is, what is this?
Are you sure?
Yeah. Because that's, my entire life. That's how I operated. Those are those two emotions. As dudes, we don't want to acknowledge the other ones, and I'm still diving into it. There's so many other words. Like if you study emotions, it comes up many pages of what those are, and when you can pinpoint what it actually is and where you feel it in your body, you can start to study where that's coming from. Whether that's sickness, whether that is a relationship that you want to get rid of, or you're at a job that is just not serving you. It's like, man, start to feel this stuff and start to understand yourself. That's what came out of that. And then it was a whole year, 2 years of being a disaster, because now you're feeling shit
that you're not used to.
And you don't know how to process it, because we're not taught that. You're just taught to shove it in your big toe and just never deal with it. And that's when you have explosions. That's when you lash out at people. That's when things go bad in your life, is when you're just holding on to this stuff. And that's what we do. And learning that through that process, it's a lot. So yeah, it was like, I knew I wanted to expand. I didn't want that to happen again. But now you got to piece all of this together. And then it's like, who I was actually wasn't me. Like, you start out as you, and you grow into you, but then over time, when you're working away and you're isolated and you're in your own head for like 20 years, you start to lose yourself. And now you're this different version of just someone that's just existing. And that's how I felt. And then all of a sudden it's like, wow, that is heavy, man.
Yeah, man, you don't feel those relationships. They're not deep. They're shallow. They're very surface level. Probably conversations all surface level. Yeah. There's no real connection.
Yeah, even with your wife and your kids, because in order to be able to manage that for 2-3 months at a time of being away and doing the things, that's unfortunately it protects you. And sometimes it's for good, but it's not long term. You can do that in the short term, as long as you're articulating that to the people that's in your life of what's going on, but we're not taught that. You're not taught, and you don't want to seem weak by telling. So there's ways to do that, and that's another reason for the community is a way to, and why we're doing this podcast, I feel, is to be able to have those conversations. And when you can have those with the like-minded people, and your wife is still protected, because a lot of the stuff they don't need to know. They shouldn't know, honestly. You can have the conversations that, hey, this is going on in my head or whatever, but I really think that it should be contained to your circle, and of having that supportive circle where, she doesn't need to know everything that's going on.
I agree with you, Nick, 100%. It's, obviously it's been a long road for myself, and keeping some of those things in your circle versus putting that on your family, I don't think there's any good from it, man. Honestly, we're also different. We're men, and they're women, and we are different. Yeah. We deal with things differently. We express things differently. So in order to have a community, to build a community, I think it's going to be so cool to hopefully, bring together these connections inside this community, and let these guys and girls have these conversations, these real life conversations. Because once I started having these conversations with myself and realizing all these things, just like you did, I was able to talk to other men that were, they don't want to talk about it, but if you can pull a little bit, they'll open those floodgates. And then it's just it's a mini community in itself, right? Where you can have these conversations, because we still want to protect the ones we love, and they don't need to know everything that's going on inside us. Yeah. It was very interesting when I first started coming out of rehab and I started posting what I was doing. I had like 300 friends or whatever. Now it's used for a business page or whatever, so it's grown. But
it was crickets, man. It's crickets when you're posting about feelings and you're posting about other things. Like from the outside looking in, it would look like a train wreck. If I go back, and I haven't deleted anything, anyone can go back and look. And I did that for a reason, because it shows a progression, right? But if you took those things that were in your head and you were able to articulate it, there's so many people that would have those same stories and that same rhetoric that they would be able to put and jot down. I was never taught to journal. I was never taught to do the things. I use social media now for journaling. That's why when you asked at the beginning, is anything off limits? I've pretty much posted everything that we've talked about here today at some point, at some length. And it's really interesting. And the feedback that I get the odd message every now and again of like, hey man, I can't believe that you said that, or I can't believe you're doing this, but I love it. It's good. Keep doing it. And it's scary because people think when they're vulnerable on social media or in life, but especially on social media, especially on a platform like LinkedIn, with a very professional page, that they're going to hurt their career. Guaranteed someone in that boardroom or someone that's on that job site is going through whatever that you're posting. As long as you're not a victim in that post or that message that you're putting out, you're okay, man, because somebody's going to read it and somebody's going to resonate with it, and they're going to take that away, and they have a chance to be able to turn something around in their head, going back to the facts and feelings. It's like, man, I never looked at it that way before. Wow, that is a cool perspective. Oh, I never saw that before. But if you're not exposed to that, there's a good chance that it's that feedback loop is just going to be the same shitty thoughts, doing the same shitty actions, and getting the same shitty results. I say shitty, but it's just the same results. The same, and your whole life can go on like that, and you won't move the needle at all.
Yeah, I agree with that, man. I think that it opens up the conversation too, right? When you're open and honest and vulnerable. I definitely 100% agree with, like, as long as you're not coming across like a victim, because I think that is, I don't think that's the right way to do it. But what I do think is, like, when you make posts like that, it opens up the conversation. So, and just so you guys know, like, my DM's always open, Nick's is always open. Like, if you want to have a chat, if you want to, we post something that you're like, shit, I feel that. I really feel that.
Yeah.
Man, I'd love to talk. So
Yeah.
is Nick. So we'd love to have these conversations with you, if that's something you're feeling, and maybe hopefully you join the community.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you there'll be lots of that going on in there.
And I'll say even the negative, even if you think the total opposite, I want to hear it, because then it means that somebody actually read it.
Yeah. Opens up the conversation, right? It
opens up the conversation, and it's bigger than that. It's like, yeah, there's a reason why there's a left and the right, and there's politics, and there's truth in the middle of all of this. But if you don't have the conversations and you're so closed off, yeah, so those are the people that we don't want in the community, because it's really, you just want open and honest conversations, and there's debate. There's reason on both. But coming from the place of personal growth, there really isn't a lot of debate. There's debate on, one method or another, but it's not. If someone's taking action to move forward, how could you not promote that? Yeah. And how could you not cheer for that?
That's exactly it. And I want to build a community where we're cheering everybody on.
Yeah.
That's going to be the cool stuff.
Everybody starts at a different point. Yeah, whether you have hit bottom or man, the really people that would benefit the most are thinking that they will never hit bottom. Those are the people that I really hope listen and at one point, because everybody gets taken out at some point. It's some level you're going to get taken out, and especially if you think that's never going to happen, you're going to get hit in the face harder than almost anybody. Trust me, that's how my separation and divorces happen. And it's divorce. Only once. I was only whoa. Hey,
just the one, eh?
Whoa. Yeah. So, but it's really important is to be able to encourage. And when you start encouraging your people around you, then that feeds and your family sees that, and your kids especially, nowadays their kids, they really don't get pushed. They really don't. They just want you to have a good little worker bee that goes to work and do the thing. They don't push you. Participation trophies, all the things. The world's competitive. The world is so competitive, and it's so easy to win these days because nobody is putting in the work. They've been so sedated, they've been so pushed around that they're just in their little corner making their salary that they can get cut loose tomorrow. And our kids are seeing that, and a lot of kids aren't pushing themselves, and they feel like an outcast if they're the one that are doing the things and getting the scholarships and do it. We need to celebrate those more than anything else, I think. So if your kids are seeing you move ahead, and even if you're in the same place, but you're taking the courses, you're reaching out, and they see you talking to people that are, influential, there's a good chance that they're going to want to be that same type of person.
I agree, man, and having your kids watch you go through personal growth, right? And the cool thing is like we can have those chats with them, right?
Yeah.
And hopefully arm them with the stuff that we weren't armed with as kids.
Yeah.
And then watch them flourish, right? Like, let's be honest, they're not always listening to us.
No.
But I think they hear us.
And they might not say it, but they're seeing it. And there's something to be said for, even if they're paying attention or not, per se, it's like osmosis. They're seeing it.
Well, I think I like for me, it's like, they're not always listening, but they hear it.
Yeah, and if you're the guy, and I was that guy who would just come home from work, go to the garage, pretend to work on stuff, but drinking beer, doing whatever in the backyard, like there is a point where that sure, go and do that. But when you're doing that every day, and that's all they see is you sedating, you doing, removing yourself from the family dynamic to go, and because you're more comfortable there. I was more comfortable at work than I was at home because that's what I knew. Totally what I knew.
Well, you can control it.
Yeah, 100% you can. 100%. I know so many people who, they're up at 4:30 in the morning. They're back to camp at 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. They go eat. Like, that takes discipline to be able to do that in minus 40 or in when you're overseas, plus 40. Like, it takes discipline to show up and do that every day. But then when you're home, you don't have that type of, well, what do? I don't have to get up at 4:30 in the morning. I can sleep till 10 o'clock in the morning if I want. I can go to the golf course if I want to. I get to do all these things. But when you start removing yourself from the family dynamic, and that's what I did. I was addicted to golf. At some point, I was addicted to poker, and I'm not good at cards, so that was a disaster. I was addicted to, I've always drank, and now I haven't drank since 2019. And
gym.
I've been addicted to the gym, which you would think inherently was good, but I used it to sedate because it took me away from the daily life that I didn't know how to operate in when I was home.
You get lost, man.
You get lost, and we can go down that a lot more on that side. But that, to me, that was the biggest thing was, you become accustomed and you're comfortable at work because, you know what's expected of you. You know what needs to happen, and you just do it. When you're home, you're just in the way. You're in the way when you wake up in the morning and you don't know the routine and you don't know where drop-off is for the kids, or you don't
what day is horseback riding?
Exactly. You don't know what the teachers' names are. Like, I don't know any of my kids' teachers' names, and I've had two, and one's 19 and one's 17.
You know what I think is cool? We had this conversation last time I was in Calgary, and I think someone else actually came up with it. It's something that I'm putting in place in my life is, maybe a week before I'm coming home, it's what do you need?
Yeah.
Where are we at? how can I support you? And just those 3 questions there, and it opens up the conversation with my wife to be like, okay, when I hit the ground or when I fly in, I'm already inside the family dynamic because I know what she needs.
Yeah.
I know how to support her. I know what my daughter needs. I know how to support her, and I'm in. Instead of that, week or 2 weeks, sometimes it's just like, I don't know what to do. I'm gonna sleep till 10, or just gonna hit the golf course because I don't know what's going on, and those sort of things. So it's been very cool to have those conversations with my wife, and know that when I come home, it's gonna be all right, and I'm gonna get into those routines with them instead of wandering around the house or hitting the garage or hitting the gym or whatever sedating that comes with, right? So it's super important.
And it's going to be interesting, when you go away this next time. And how long are you gone for?
Probably 2 months.
Yeah. So when you get back, because you've been home for over a year now, right? Yeah. So that'll be super interesting to see. But it's great that just those questions, because every time that you come home, knowing now, not before, but you're at a different place every time. Every time you fly home, you're in a different mental state. The family is in and each person in the family is in a different place every time. They might feel really good about where you're at, or like together, or they might be pulling away, but having that conversation will be huge. So I'm excited to see that's all implemented.
I'm excited about going away from the family, but definitely excited about putting these little things in place just so that transition, I don't have to worry about sedating, not knowing where I fit.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. All right. Well, it was great to get to know you, Nick. There's so much more, obviously.
Yeah.
That was just scratch the surface here, but we're probably gonna get out of here.
Yeah. No, this is really good.
Yeah, man. It's always good to see you.
Yeah. We'll talk soon.
Okay, man. That's it for today's episode of One More Boom podcast. Remember, you're part of a community that doesn't settle for the status quo. Here, we push boundaries, support each other, and thrive under pressure. Whether you're out in the field or leveling up your career, we've got your back. Stay connected, stay driven, and keep embodying the grit of a different breed. Until next time, keep pushing forward. Together, we'll achieve more. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode of One More Boom.